So the primary male sex hormone, testosterone.
Hey, good to see you boys again.
What we're going to talk about today.
Yeah,
Speaking of testosterone up males.
Yeah, pumped up. Yeah.
Produced by your testes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the adrenals a little bit.
Yeah, I think the adrenals make your DHEA, which is a precursor for testosterone. So definitely the adrenals come into play.
Primary male sex hormone.
Primary male sex
That's what we're going to talk about today. Helps
Androgens.
with muscle growth, recovery, promotes traits like physical strength, body hair, sex drive, competition.
Deep voice.
Deep voices. You know, that competitive drive.
Yeah.
Definitely would have.
Really, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely would have been
controversial,
what
but makes us men. In a scientific sense.
Yeah.
If you want to identify that way.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Smitty. Just during the week, I was listening to this thing that come through on my Rumble account, and it's a movie. I don't know when it was made, but it's called The Disappearing Male, and it talks about the effects over the last 50, 60 years of petrochemicals on the male population, to the point that they're talking about like extinction, sex extinction of males. They reckon that the exposure to petrochemicals in plastics,
phthalates,
which range
toxins,
from phthalates, which range from our water bottles, baby bottles, carpet, shampoos, a lot of stuff. All these petrochemicals that we're exposed to.
Healthcare products,
they reckon,
deodorant stuff.
They reckon that
flame retardants, smelling furniture.
In your computers for flame retardants and stuff like that. But they reckon that every young man born now will have half the sperm count of his father over the next.
And I think that's further being adjusted down by another factor of 50%. So it was 60, went down to 40, went down to 20, and now they're talking about putting it down to 10.
Oh, you mean
this is sperm count?
Sperm count. I know. Yeah, that's the...
So 10 million per milliliter, I think it is, or something like that. It was 60 million back in the day.
Yeah,
so 60 is going down to 20, and they're talking about the new normal as being 10. So
if they don't reduce that rate as the new normal, then no one is able to, or is then eligible to donate sperm, because they are then considered infertile.
Abnormal.
Or infertile. You can't donate sperm if you're infertile.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how they've dropped that percentile.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anyway, it was an interesting.
We'll definitely talk about
interesting movie.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about ways to increase your testosterone, and interestingly, it's probably what we've already talked about ancestrally. We go back to an ancestrally compliant diet and what our forefathers would have done. So it's quite
using a lot of plastic drink bottles and shit.
No, that's right.
They weren't getting a lot of fumes off their laptops.
No, that's it. Well, I guess it's interesting you say that, because testosterone is 20 times higher in males than females.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that females don't produce testosterone. They still need it. So it's not just an episode for the males. It's for everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
Testosterone is needed.
Well, just like males need estrogen.
That's right, yeah. And they need to be kind of in the right ratio.
That's
so you
right.
look at 2-to-1 ratio for women, I think it is, for testosterone to estrogen. Yeah. But very, very interesting hormone.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to clarify, mate, was, and I've made this mistake by going and get my testosterone tested, is the whole concept of free testosterone and total testosterone. And correct me if I'm wrong, but free testosterone is that testosterone that's not attached to a protein.
Just moving freely about your body.
And is therefore the most readily used or available and used.
Yep.
So when you do go and get tested, you want to get your free testosterone tested, not just your total testosterone tested, because
I think they just test free testosterone when you get it.
I thought they tested total testosterone and didn't include free testosterone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I've just done mine. I'm waiting for mine to come back.
There's a number of different ones you can get tested. And you can
right.
Because low levels of total testosterone don't necessarily indicate a testosterone issue.
Just means that you're using it.
Yeah, but you need to ask them specifically for a testosterone test, including free testosterone.
Yeah. You can get quite complicated ones. They can look at your DHEA levels and your luteinizing hormone and all sorts of different things. So you can get
FSH and
exactly right.
stimulating hormone.
The free testosterone count is more an indicator of a testosterone deficiency.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I've just got blood work might be or blood tests available, might be a good podcast for the future.
Yeah.
But I've just got mine last week, got it done, so it'll be interesting to see how that comes back.
Was that through your GP, or did you pay for those?
Yeah,
through GP. Because
yeah.
a lot of GPs are a bit sort of reluctant to let you test testosterone sometimes, aren't they? They're sort of suspicious of your motives.
They are, yeah.
They think like you're a roid head and you're wanting to go out and...
Yeah.
One wasn't my usual GP, but I went in to I kind of do it every sort of 18 months. And I asked to get my testosterone tested, and my GP, no word of a lie, said, "Why would you want to do that? What happens if it's low?" What happens if it's low? We do something to address it. And that's exactly why you're doing the blood tests, right? Wow. Is to get on top of things before anything gets too major, you know. Anyway, it's just crazy that was... But if you've got a GP that you see regularly, which often helps, because if you can go in there with some knowledge and say, look, I want to do this, this is why I'm doing it. Initially, I did it because I changed diets. I went sort of standard Australian diet to a bit of a paleo keto diet, and I said, I just want to look at my numbers. Can we get a before and after shot? So it'd be interesting to see what my T comes back as.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty good marker for aging, right? So we gradually, it's a natural consequence of aging that our testosterone goes down.
But mate, I wanted to challenge that concept, because some information that I was reading was a healthy individual with good nutrition, exercises regularly, and a healthy body weight doesn't necessarily decrease in testosterone by a drastic amount. But what happens is, as we age, we become more sedentary, we become more overweight, maybe our diet's not as healthy as it should be, and we maybe drink more alcohol, maybe suffering more stress. Those lifestyle things occur at a time at an older age, and they are the things that contribute to a decline in testosterone. That was one thing that I read and I found really interesting. It's not just a matter of our testosterone dropping as we get older, because you can still maintain a high level of testosterone as you get older.
Definitely.
By all the things that we'll probably talk about.
That was pretty much my next statement.
Sorry.
Was, a high insulin diet, stress, cortisol increase in abdominal fat, which kind of happens when you get sedentary, is probably the reason why. So it's interesting you say that. And as an older man, Rooster, with probably high levels of testosterone, you're doing all the right things. But definitely, it's kind of that conventional wisdom that, it's okay, your testosterone comes down as you get older. But is that actually the case? Is that what would have happened? Ancestrally, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
think, is it beneficial for it to drop, or is it good for it to stay high? Because there's a lot of progressive sort of sports doctors now and stuff who would say that as a male, it's good to maintain a certain level, and we don't want to drop off the cliff, because you're going to get those negative side effects. You're going to get low skeletal muscle. You're going to get a lot of belly fat. You're going to have reduced sort of like drive, and you're probably going to have some mental health aspects that are going to suffer and things like that. So maybe it's not good for it to drop off, and maybe it is a factor of modern life and what we're doing. As opposed to what we should be doing, or what would have happened back in the day.
Well, if you think ancestrally, as men became elders in the tribal community, they were still fit and able. They often still went out hunting,
around, eating well.
They still went out and did things. They didn't have those lifestyle challenges that contributed to a decline in testosterone.
Yeah, it's interesting about those, sedentary and increased abdominal fat cells, because they produce more estrogen.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I was reading about that, the aromatase enzyme, which is in fat tissue. And then, because I'm always interested in seeing dudes with bitch tits, dudes with little boobies. Gynecomastia. Yeah. And I had a look into that, and that's obviously with greater fat tissue in the body.
One of bitch tits is not politically correct.
Yeah, we might have to dub that one out. Man boobs.
Man boobs.
Yeah.
Gynecomastia is hard to say, isn't it? Let's go.
Yeah, we'll say man boobs. But
Fight Club. What was it on Fight Club?
It always fascinates me, dudes that get that. And you look at them, and they're generally overweight guys. And that is obviously what you just mentioned there, Jonesy, is the increase in estrogen, which is affected by the production of aromatase in fat tissue. So more fat tissue.
Luteinizing hormone regulates that testosterone release from luteinizing hormone from the pituitary gland.
Yeah, increases estrogen.
Well, regulates the testosterone production, but excess estrogen, so coming from sort of fat cells, is throws that balance out and testosterone. So I think that's what causes the man breasts.
Yeah, along with the decrease in fertility, possible erectile dysfunction, depression.
Yeah, that's a huge one, I reckon, the depression, the mood disorders.
Definitely, mate, definitely, yeah. We can talk about that a bit later, but as I just turned 50, I reckon I've experienced a little bit of that. I haven't had my testosterone levels checked. I should.
Yeah.
But I think just
they do talk about andropause and andropause, which is kind of like male menopause.
Fall off the cliff sort of thing.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that was bullshit.
Well, I don't know.
That was just probably is a thing, but whether it's meant to happen to you and whether it does happen to everyone or not, depending on the lifestyle you live and maybe your individual sort of biochemistry and genetics and things like that.
You'll probably want to believe it's bullshit, because you don't want to think that your testosterone's going to go down. But if that's naturally what happens, who knows?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes.
It's an interesting topic.
Yeah. It's a vicious cycle, isn't it? Because you're talking about like your fat production and the interaction with estrogen and stuff like that. But then when your testosterone drops, that causes more belly fat as well. And when you become stressed and your cortisol levels are high, you're naturally not going to make testosterone, but you're also going to put on belly fat. So there's a lot of, you can see how you could easily slip into that sort of cycle of getting a bit lower and then maybe you're a bit stressed and maybe you're carrying a lot more body fat. And it seems almost like a self-perpetuating sort of feedback loop.
Well, the stress one's a big one, isn't it?
It's huge. It's so big.
I mean, cortisol, we briefly touched on it in the last episode, but it's the chief antagonist to testosterone, isn't it? So if your cortisol's high,
competing to make cortisol or DHEA, DHEA being the precursor for testosterone. So if you're making cortisol instead, you're not making DHEA, and if you're not making DHEA, you're not making enough T. So
you definitely want that.
You don't want to be stressed. You don't want to be in that chronic stressed, high cortisol state for a number of reasons.
Go back and
one of them.
Go back and listen to our episode on systemic inflammation. We talk about that a little bit, don't we?
Yeah.
But the cortisol is a strong catabolic hormone, breaking down things. Whereas testosterone's anabolic and building things up. So, if you haven't got those ratios in the right amount, it's going to be off.
So, should we talk about what we can do to increase it naturally? Because there's a ton of stuff we can do. There's so much stuff you can do in terms of lifestyle and the way you could
pick up a couple from what we were just talking about.
Soy's a big one, isn't it? Soy's a killer for your testosterone. Yeah, dairy, alcohol.
They're in almond milk. They're in all
There
those.
There is a brand of almond milk that's organic that has no added sunflower oil. We have it at home. I can't think of the brand name. I'll flick it to you. But there are options out there, but you've got to do your homework because you're right. They bloody get you on all fronts. If you're not drinking frigging soy milk and growing boobs and you're eating seed oil and
well, even the lining,
devil's in the detail.
Even you look at you go in, you get an almond milk latte in your takeaway cup. The takeaway cup's lined with PFOS, PFOA, BPA, phthalates. Your milk, you're thinking you're getting your healthy milk with your sunflower seed oils in it, and that's like a little. It seems like a little cup of unhealthy.
Little cup of contaminants.
Black coffee, anyone?
Yeah, exactly. Black coffee in your glass.
China cup. Or a glass. Yeah.
I mean, I guess then that leads to, how do you? I mean, there's probably other things we can talk about there, but there's a good little segue to take it sideways in that. How do you know your testosterone is low? And one of them is lack of libido. So if you're not feeling like doing the deed, then
with yourself or with another,
that's a good that's a good indicator that something might not be right.
Or even more extreme, obviously, like erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
Well,
Further down the path, you've lost your libido, and then maybe you're actually losing your ability to physically perform.
The old not getting any morning glory anymore. You know, if you're not.
Yep.
Morning erections is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, we can probably touch on that again. Just wanted to talk about morning boners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good from you, Mickey.
Wakey.
Yeah. But interesting, the vitamin D one was big. That was one of the ones that I had for increasing your testosterone.
Yeah.
Sun exposure, getting your skin exposed to the sun, helping cholesterol sort of convert some testosterone.
Well, you need cholesterol
to convert.
Enhance testosterone.
Yeah, if we go back to sort of the aging thing, we talk about increasing. I would have thought testosterone might sort of be level across your whole life, cycle. You probably don't want it dipping, like Smithy was talking about. And interestingly, cholesterol increases as you get older. And I think it could be, a defensive mechanism against sort of neurodegenerative conditions.
Yeah, right.
And increasing cholesterol helps that. So as you get older, your cholesterol increases. And strangely enough, your doctors can say your cholesterol's going up. You need to get on these statin drugs, or your testosterone's dipping. You need to get some replacement therapy.
Yeah.
Whereas if we looked at these lifestyle changes, reducing a really high carb diet or an insulin producing diet, no smoking, no alcohol, some exercise, those things are going to go up.
There's a great amount of evidence out there to show that exercise increases testosterone levels.
Yep.
It's probably one of the best ways to do it naturally.
Yeah. And in particular, high-intensity interval training has been proven. And then when you're looking at strength training, there's evidence to show, and I think I listened to Ben Greenfield talk about this years ago, squatting and deadlifting are two exercises.
The big muscles,
any sort of big compound movement, isn't it?
Big compound
movements. A lot of
those that will contribute to a boost in testosterone.
Yeah, and I think also the way that you do it is important. So they talk about explosive, sort of like high weight exercise with a big rest period.
Yep.
And the other one they spoke about was very short duration sprinting.
Yep.
So I think the research was something like only 6 to 10 second sprinting episodes.
All out.
I think they said you need 6 seconds and then quite a long rest period, 30 seconds or a minute in between, and do a set of 10 of those or something like that, and you can boost your testosterone quite a bit.
Yeah. And what does that look like? That looks like Ancestral Man, right?
Yeah.
We're sprinting 6 to 10 seconds to get away from danger.
Some prey, or you're getting away from some prey.
Yep. You're lifting heavy things to build your cave. Well, the cave's already built, right?
Yeah.
You're building your shelter. You're moving. You're going on a hunt. You're killing the animal. You're putting it on your back. You're carrying it back to your tribe.
And you're coming back and having a high-fat meal of meat and fat and protein. You're not having a sack of flour and
you've probably also going back to one of our first podcasts, which is one of the most popular ones. You've probably also fasted as well before you've eaten, which they reckon fasting can also, because fasting can help increase growth hormone levels, and pretty much wherever growth hormone is, testosterone follows. So fasting can actually help you increase your testosterone levels.
Yeah. So piggybacking off that, improving your sleep and your sleep quality is another big one, because that will increase your testosterone, because human growth hormone is high during sleep. So as you sleep, growth hormone comes in, repairs, builds things up. Yeah. So increasing sleep will help improving your sleep will help increase testosterone.
And that can often be another, you mentioned some indicators earlier, Jonesy, the disrupted sleep as you get older could possibly be a sign of a drop in your testosterone levels.
Urinating a few times a night. Yeah. Well, that's more of a prostate thing.
But that does tie in with T and DHT and
Yeah, a friend of mine who's getting over prostate cancer was told he had to be mindful of increasing his testosterone levels because of the cancer re-emerging.
Yeah. Well, it's an anabolic hormone, builds things up.
Yeah, and I guess what a catch-22 the poor bugger's in, because he's now at an age, getting into his 50s, where you'd want to maintain that testosterone level, but he can't for fear of a cancer reigniting. It's
Don't you think it's all about
tough.
balance?
Yeah.
Like I rabbit on about balance so much. I'm so sick of saying the fucking word balance, but like we don't want too much. Like we don't want so much testosterone.
Yeah.
We don't want none.
Yeah.
We just want that healthy range in the middle.
Yeah.
But I think maybe we're a bit muddled up about what our healthy range and state is because of the modern world and these new normals and things like that. And we know, like you mentioned earlier, our testosterone levels are dropping as men. Our sperm counts are dropping and our fertility rates of fertility are dropping. So, maybe we want to go away a little bit from what is normal now and maybe look at what was normal, back in the day. And maybe that's where our balance point is. But there is a lot of fear. You're right. In like, have I got too much or...
Yeah, and I guess our testosterone levels are all completely different. So my low testosterone level my low testosterone count might be high for you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So everyone's ranges of low and high testosterone are completely so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would argue, in my opinion, that if you use natural remedies to increase your T, so I'm talking about like diet, exercise, sun exposure, maybe some supplementation or some food-based things that you can use to supplement with, I don't believe your body will make too much. I think, for me, I would argue that it comes into when you start talking about supplementing with DHEA or supplementing with testosterone or something like that.
Yeah.
That you could get out of balance.
Yeah.
I don't believe that your body will physically make too much testosterone if you give it the chance.
Yeah, if you're doing it naturally.
I don't know if the science backs that up, but in my opinion, I don't think your body would do that.
Yeah.
If you just give it all the precursor things that it needs and give it the ideal conditions, I think you will find you balance it's right for you. I don't think that's the case if you obviously, take like transmucosal or rectal DHEA, like some people do, or they start using actual testosterone supplementation. I think you can get in trouble then. But
What about supplements, mate? What sort of supplements can people take to maintain a high level of or increase naturally?
Well,
not supplements as I'm not talking about steroids or like...
You're talking about natural food-based or mineral-based or herbal.
Yeah.
Well, I knew we were probably going to talk about this and I didn't look at it really because I took Smithy's sort of opinion of, and maybe Smithy's got some information about that, but I think if we're doing the right things, our body will balance out that testosterone. I don't know, it might be good to supplement or get some things, herbal remedies or whatnot, if it was low or, we were having issues with libido or, whatever it might be that indicate that there is indications that testosterone's low. But I think if all those things are okay and you're doing the right things, you're eating well, you're getting some vitamin D, you're avoiding those plastics and those estrogenic compounds from, shampoos, deodorants, packaged foods, all those kind of things. You're decreasing your cortisol, or you're having that cortisol testosterone balance right, you're lifting some heavy things, you're doing some sprinting every now and then. I don't really know if you need supplementation, but I'm not a doctor or anything, so maybe there are some things you can do, but I didn't really look into them. I thought if you're doing all the natural stuff,
but we need to consider there are blokes out there who can't sprint, there are blokes out there who don't want to lift. And
they can do that initially, I suppose.
Easier option,
or maybe they just want to boost. For whatever reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I read that zinc is a good supplement to take to help maintain testosterone health.
Yes.
So I take zinc every day.
Yeah. Good for immunity as well. And, these times of all the illnesses going around and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, a lot of people taking zinc. But so I went down the supplementation route a little bit just to look at sort of like herbal supplements.
Yeah.
So in terms of sort of like plant-based or herbal ones, I just came across saw palmetto. Seems to be quite an effective one at boosting T, and especially if you link that or take it in combination with, I always have trouble saying this word, axanthin. So that's another natural plant-based supplement.
Yeah, right.
So if you take both of those together, they seem to have a synergistic effect, which does seem to boost T quite a bit.
Well, interesting though, saw palmetto is a good one for prostate health
Yes.
and reducing DHT, which is dihydrotestosterone.
Yep.
Right. How do you spell that, mate? The what was that? Self palmetto.
SAW, S-A-W,
so like hand saw, S-A-W.
Yeah.
And then palmetto, so P-A-L-M-E-T-O. Saw palmetto.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They get it from palm trees. You know those palm trees that are real spiky? They were really big in the 80s. Everyone used to have them when you were growing up. I felt
like cotton palm.
Well, cotton palm. And they got real big spikes on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's saw palmetto.
Yeah,
it's South American, I think. Maybe.
Yeah,
but anyway,
I'm not too sure of the
origin. I looked into it for hair loss.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's really good for prostate health, but I think it also does boost T naturally
by reducing dihydrotestosterone.
Yeah, so testosterone gets broken down into dihydrotestosterone.
Right.
And you've always got like a balance of the two.
Yeah.
But I think the saw palmetto, and especially with astaxanthin, I can't say the word.
Astaxanthin?
I have real trouble with that. A few words I have real trouble speaking.
Yeah.
Seems to be very effective at naturally boosting T, and it's not like a harsh chemical sort of compound or anything like that. It's natural, so I would tend to go for something like that.
Yeah.
And then make sure your vitamin D and your zinc levels are good. Maybe chuck in a little bit of magnesium.
Yeah.
And then just dietary and exercise and things like that seem to be the go.
I don't know if you've listened to Huberman on Old Mate's podcast.
Rogan.
Brain fade there. Yeah, Huberman was on Rogan about a month or so back, and he was they were talking about enhancing testosterone, and he mentioned this Southeast Asian herb called tongatali.
Tongatali, yeah.
Have you heard that? So it's Tongkat.
I kept thinking they were saying tomcat.
Yeah. And the next word is ALI.
Yeah.
And apparently that's used for the treatment of malaria, infections, fevers, male infertility, and erectile dysfunction in Southeast Asian traditions. It may increase testosterone levels for men who are diagnosed with low testosterone.
Right.
So that could be one out there for the dudes who Tongatali.
Tongatali.
Yeah.
It's a fun one to say, anyway. If nothing else.
And I just when I was researching, you can get it in capsule form by reputable supplement providers.
It's crazy the amount of T boosters you can find if you go online. If you type in like testosterone booster.
Yeah, what's that? Resveratrol.
Resveratrol. Yeah, I took resveratrol back in the day. It's really good for anti-aging and longevity and things like that as well. So
yeah, right.
But yeah, resveratrol was big for a while as a
it's in red wine, so you just drink red wine.
T booster, yeah, drink some red wine.
You got to drink a lot. So
tons, yeah.
I'll give it a go.
might be better to take the resveratrol.
Yeah, that Tonkat one, there was a study in animals and humans back in, it was done around 2000 to 2015, and all those animals and humans in that test, in those studies, experienced an increase in sexual arousal and improved erectile function. In that study, and it was a study this is a PubMed study. Oh, Chewy.
He has no problem with this erectile dysfunction, don't you worry.
Chewbacca. Yeah. Where'd that Chewy come from?
How did he get in here?
Yeah. But anyway, that was a study on that Tonkat. Helped increase sexual arousal and sexual function of those in the test. Yeah.
Actually, the last one I've heard about is people talk about ginseng. I don't know if ginseng was really popular, don't you reckon? Like 10 or 15 years ago, everyone was talking about ginseng. It seems to have fallen out of favour, and I think there's different purities and different qualities, and there's red ginseng and white ginseng and all your different types. But I have heard quite a few people reference ginseng as maybe naturally boosting your T levels a bit. But
okay.
Did in the discussion with the Tongat did they talk about it increasing sperm quality?
No, mate. It just was sexual arousal more so,
right?
And erectile performance.
It must be another supplement, because I think they were talking about that in a similar.
Yeah.
circle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a few ways there that we've listed.
So a couple that often help with tea, or maybe it's reducing cortisol, is hot therapy and cold therapy. We've talked about those previously.
Yeah.
There was a good study. I did.
Oh, is this
did
one that you
link-
mentioned last week
Yeah,
that
I
you
did
had
link to this. It's going to link to
study
the
to
study.
link?
Yeah,
To
link
link
'em
all
up.
three.
Link them up, son.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
hit us.
Susan Soberg, the study. I don't know if you remember me talking about the sort of protocols for.
Was this that really pretty lady?
I'm not sure.
And
She's-
Huberman calls it the Soberg.
Oh yeah, yeah.
theory.
He talks about it. Yeah, yeah.
So I showed a picture on her when he was talking about it.
Oh,
Damn. Sorry, mate.
not just a pretty face.
No. Yeah.
So in that study, you might be able to back me up here. They were talking about the time frames of cold exposure and heat exposure. So she was talking about 11 minutes for cold exposure, and then I think it was 57 minutes for heat exposure. Don't remember that. Anyway, yep. So that was from that study, and
they were the optimal.
they were the
durations.
optimal time frames for hot and cold
So is that
to
linked,
increase.
CJ? So like you do 11 minutes of cold, then immediately followed by roughly an hour of hot, or are they in isolation?
So there was another study,
Oh.
2021, the endocrine effects of repeated hot thermal stress and cold water immersion in young adult men. So they did 4 saunas for 12 minutes a week at 90 degrees, and then they did, after that sauna, they did a 6-minute cold water immersion at 10 degrees.
Directly after the sauna, so sort of out of the hot sauna and then into the cold water?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So it decreased. What they found was there wasn't an increase in testosterone as such. It was more so that it decreased cortisol, and obviously a good way to help with stress. So they measured testosterone. DHEA went up. Testosterone stayed the same. Cortisol went down. So as you're saying, DHEA precursor for testosterone. So inadvertently, that kind of protocol increased testosterone by reducing the cortisol and DHEA.
Yeah, okay.
Increasing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, that was interesting that, kind of tied all the last sort of 3 topics that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And, hot and cold, because we talked about cold and hot on its own. We didn't really talk about it being a protocol of going from one to the other.
Yeah.
It makes sense because it's a stressor, isn't it? So if you're going to stress your body, then you usually do get those beneficial effects after you have like a hormetic stressor. So I guess if you're going very, very cold, very hot, or vice versa, it is going to be quite a stress on the body.
Yeah.
So your body is probably going to upregulate some protective things, and maybe tea is one of those things that.
Yeah, interestingly,
for men at least,
they found that cortisol decreased, and you would have thought that those things were a stressor for the body.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mate, just while you're talking there, I was listening, and I just went back to the page on my phone where I found that information on Tonkat Ali, and there was some information on sperm mobility and sperm volume and motility.
What do they call the tail? Do you know? Can you remember that?
I can't remember.
So what's the difference between sperm mobility and motility? Is motility the tail, the power of it? Is that motility? What's the difference between motility and mobility?
I thought with sperm they usually classified them as the actual quality of the sperm, so how many of them were correctly sort of formed, and then the motility, and then the actual amount per mil. So I thought that was usually like the 3 things but maybe mobility and motility are different.
Yeah, okay.
Categories again. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
Well, this study on that Tonkat Ali piece that I was looking at had 75 male partners in couples with infertility. They used 200 milligrams per day for 3 months of the Tonkat Ali. 14% of the couples fell pregnant. And then there was a 12-week study in 108 men aged 30 to 55. They took 300 milligrams per day of Tonkat Ali. That increased sperm volume and motility by an average of 18% for the 30-year-olds and 44% for the 55-year-old age bracket.
So more effective for the elderly gentlemen.
Yeah. It was interesting, and that was a PubMed study in 2012.
Does that talk about any side effects, Roo? Did you come across? So obviously, it's got good effects when it comes to tea. Did they mention any sort of adverse?
Mate, I
nothing
didn't.
you came across?
I could have a look.
No, well, if anyone listening is interested, they can obviously go and do their own research. But it sounds that's some pretty decent gains, isn't it?
Yeah. And what I gathered from the Rogan Huberman discussion was that it seems to be gaining traction in health and fitness.
Yeah. I've heard
domain.
Don Ali for a few different things. It's good. I've never tried it, never used it, never seen it. Anyway.
No.
Yeah.
I've got an oddball one for you guys. It's
here we go.
Some cutting edge research.
Yeah.
From 1939.
Wow.
So about 80 odd years old.
Yeah. Well, they're closer to the ancestral man than we are, so that's probably.
Well, this is pretty ancestral. So a couple of researchers are Meyerson and Neustadt in 1939. They released a paper, and it was titled "The Influence of Ultraviolet Irradiation Upon Excretion of Sex Hormone in the Male." And what it looked at was basically exposing your skin to sunlight. So like Mickey spoke before with the vitamin D, and what they, in their very small observational study from 80 years ago, found was that if you expose your back, your chest and your torso to direct ultraviolet sunlight, then you get up to 120% increase in your testosterone level.
Wow.
But if you expose your testicles to direct sunlight, they reckon a 200% increase.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
So I think we were having a chat before the show, and we joked around about, we've heard Ben Greenfield and some of these fitness gurus sort of shining red lights and things like that on their testes.
Yeah.
Well, apparently if you go out and do it in the sunlight as well or anything like that, back in the day, they were touting some pretty big gains from getting your junk out in the sun.
Yeah.
Those nude sunbathers down at the beach, they're onto something.
Yeah.
You know, their T levels are through the roof.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go. So, yeah, I guess.
So probably not something a lot of us are doing these days, getting our
Well,
testicles
I get my plums out.
Mate, to be honest, I've got a pool out the back, and I'll just sit on the pool lounge sometimes and just get the old boys out.
That's why you're in such good shape.
Yeah, well, it feels nice actually to have the sun on your dudes, because you don't often get the sun down there, do you? It's just
where the sun don't shine.
Where the sun don't shine. Yeah. I don't really. I'm not really into the perineum sort of thing. I'm not really one to turn my arsehole up to the sky and get sunshine
down with dog or something.
Well, your old man plums are probably dangling over your perineum anyway, mate. They're not going to be. That thing's all in the shade. You're going to have to lift them up and
complicated system of mirrors.
Well, mate, if that works, I'm going to try it.
Bit of a laugh, you know. I mean, what's
the
worst thing that can happen now? You're out in nature, sort of, getting out in the sun.
The worst thing is the neighbour next door sees this.
Wouldn't want to get any sunburn down there, but would be painful. But
that's true. You'd want to, you'd want to.
I've got a funny story.
Pull up stumps before you get. Well, here we go.
Back in the 70s, when my uncle and my dad and my other uncle took me down to Swanbourne Beach, and they just left me play on the beach and get 3rd-degree burns on my back, and those old fellas got their junk burnt by laying out in the sun all day.
Ooh.
Yeah, back in the 70s, man, that sunscreen.
Swanee.
Yeah.
Who said the sun wasn't strong back in the 70s, eh?
Yeah.
Very good.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Well, I guess we've discussed, all the things that we've talked about before, ancestral man would have done. That seems like what would have helped increase testosterone. So improving your sleep, improving your diet, getting some exercise, lifting some heavy things, avoiding toxins, plastics, dilates, deodorants, decreasing cortisol so our stress levels go down. The other one I found was breathing.
Ooh.
And it seems to be that having that cortisol balance, breathing or even sort of apnea or sleep apnea at night is even worse. So that increases our stress level. Cortisol goes up. We don't sleep as well, which then affects our testosterone. So just another interesting one. I guess we're kind of getting a bit close to the end here. So is there anything else you wanted to throw in there?
It's just an interesting thing. I've got an adolescent teenage boy, and just seeing him change with the influx of testosterone in his body, and he used to do little athletics, and the poor little fella, he was a late maturer compared to some of the boys in his age. And these little young man-childs with hairy legs and deep voices, they'll be powering down the straight. And there's my young bloke, a great runner in his own right, but just did not have the muscular strength, the power, the endurance and speed that these boys had that were mature, or on their way to maturity, had started. He hadn't yet.
Yeah.
And it was quite heartbreaking for him because it was like he was like a clean athlete and they were like on the sups, you know what I mean? Like, but they were, for want of a better term, they were like, supplemented.
Not blood doping.
Yeah. That's right. And so now I'd love to see him go back to that type of sport and see how he goes against them, because now he's sort of caught up.
Yeah.
And it'd be good for his sort of self-esteem and his own awareness to see that. But it showed to me, and it's just sort of off the cuff point here, but it just showed to me that just the effect that testosterone has on our bodies.
Yeah. Muscle growth.
Yeah.
The other interesting one that we didn't really talk about was competitive drive. And that's one way that you can increase testosterone is through competition.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Is what I've found.
What, even playing chess?
Maybe.
Really into it.
Yeah. I think maybe it had to be sort of physical
sports.
Yeah, competitive stuff, team sports, running, chasing someone down. Yeah. That helps boost testosterone.
Yeah.
I think it's a really valuable hormone, isn't it? Like we really need it.
Yeah.
You're not going to feel good without it if you don't have enough, particularly if you're a man. Obviously, women need a certain amount, but men certainly need fairly high amounts.
I guess we joke about it. We joke about it making us manly, and we want to have high sperm counts and we want to have high testosterone. But ultimately, it is what makes you a man, but it also keeps you healthy.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not just us being rah men kind of thing. It's needed. We need to have it in the right balance. We need to have the ratios correct.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it leads to ill health.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just a manly thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fortunately, the cure for it is mostly natural, isn't it? It's exercise, it's diet, it's lifestyle. Get some good sleep. If you're really curious, you can go and try and get your doctor to write you a prescription for some testing, or if they don't make that available to you, you can even pay for your own testing if you want. So there are definitely ways and means out there. And we've spoken about sort of some supplement tips as well. So there's plenty of things that people can do.
Yeah.
But start with maybe just doing some sprints.
Yeah.
Doing some squats.
Yeah.
Some deadlifts, something like that.
Body weight.
Yeah.
Or just some nutritional changes. That's easy.
But stay away from chronic cardio, because no good.
Yes.
A lot of people that do chronic cardio have really a lot of trouble maintaining healthy testosterone levels.
Is that right?
Yeah, you're going to boost your cortisol levels right up, and you take it through the floor. So
once again, it's more to do with the cortisol.
So
and that's the reason why athletes in the Tour de France or cycling, they're not taking testosterone for building muscle. They're taking testosterone to reduce their cortisol, and in their helping of recovery.
Yeah, almost trying to survive just like a war of attrition, aren't they?
Yeah,
just doing punishing absolutely crazy bike rides every day. These feats of endurance have a real toll that they take on their body. So.
Right.
Chronic cardio is really bad, super bad.
Systemic inflammation too, chronic cardio.
So explosive, short movements with a lot of rest. That's what you want for you.
Yeah, and I mean, look at long distance sprinters. Long distance runners compared to your sprinters.
Yeah,
and look at the physiques of them.
The body type.
The body type. Obviously, the sprinters are a lot more induced with juice.
Yeah,
testosterone.
Yeah.
So I guess it'd be interesting to see what the listeners have to say about testosterone. They can flick us an email, modernancestralman@gmail.com.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to hear what people think, and even if they've got topics for us to do on other occasions, it'd be great to get that out there.
Yeah. And like we said before, we're not doctors.
No.
We're not medical professionals. We're just blokes that have interested in these topics and have tried a few things themselves.
And we're not just saying we're not doctors for our sake, covering our backsides. We're saying it for the listener too, to consult with their physician, go in and see what's best for them. It's kind of for their safety, right? It's, you've got to do what's best for you. So you go and sort of work that out There's some trained professionals,
Yeah.
We're just...
And a lot of the times, the stuff we talk about, we're interested in it, and I just love researching it.
Yeah,
and so for anyone that's thinking about one of the topics we talk about, just go and do your own research. There's plenty of, you got the internet at your fingertips. Research stuff. Read, listen, and just
ask your doctor. Get a second opinion if you think.
Filter out what you think's bullshit. Absorb what you think is going to help you, and just have a crack at trying different things.
Yeah. Self-experimentation is the way to learn.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah, as long as you're not hurting yourself.
Yeah. So flick us an email. Modern Ancestral Man.
Great.
Do I need to spell it out, or is that all right?
Nah, I think you're good.
Ancestral is a tough one to spell.
It is.
So,
I always get the C in the S.
Yeah, ANCESTRAL.
Yeah, because then I also think there's
Modern Ancestral Man.
ancestral. Is it like cholesterol? No, it's
or
not.
American?
It's just ancestral. TRAL.
Yeah.
See, now we're just talking bullshit.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's probably a good way to finish it up. And we'll speak to you guys soon.
Yeah, see you next week.
Good stuff.
Sounds good. All right.